Welcome back to another episode of Bedtime Philosophy, where we slow things down, dive deep into fascinating ideas, and help you unwind with some of the most profound wisdom humanity has ever explored. If you find these slow, calming philosophy talks helpful for falling asleep or just relaxing your mind at the end of the day, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us share thoughtful content with more people like you. Tonight, we'll discuss the 10 biggest questions in the philosophy of time. Time surrounds us, it carries us, shapes us, limits us, and yet we rarely stop to ask what it is. We live inside time, we measure it, we mourn its passing, we feel it stretching in moments of waiting and disappearing in moments of joy. But what is time, truly? Is it real or is it an illusion? Is it something out there in the world or something we carry inside us? Does it flow? Is it made of moments? Or is it a kind of structure that we impose on the world like a lens? Tonight, or today, or whenever you're listening to this, we will journey together through the deepest mysteries of time. Not clock time or calendar time, but metaphysical time, the strange and elusive thing that philosophers have questioned for millennia. St. Augustine, writing over 1,500 years ago, captured the paradox beautifully when he said, "What then is time? If no one asks me, I know. If I wish to explain it to him who asks, I do not know." And so we begin with that humility. We know what time feels like, but to explain what it is, that is a different matter entirely. Let us begin with the first and perhaps the deepest question of all. Is time real or is it an illusion? This question has haunted philosophers since the beginning. In ancient Greece, the philosopher Heraclitus declared that everything flows. Everything changes. You cannot step into the same river twice, he said, because the waters are always moving. For Heraclitus, time and change were at the heart of being itself. But another philosopher, Parmenides, took the opposite view. He believed that change is impossible and that reality is a single, eternal, unchanging whole. All motion, all change, all becoming, he said, is illusion. Only being is. In the 20th century, the British philosopher J.M.E. McTaggart revisited this ancient tension in his famous paper, The Unreality of Time. McTaggart argued that time, as we understand it, leads to contradiction. He distinguished between two ways of thinking about time, the A series and the B series. The A series is how we naturally experience time as a flow from past to present to future. Events move through this series. A birthday is upcoming, then it is happening, then it is in the past. The B series, by contrast, orders events by their relations of earlier than and later than. In the B series, a birthday always happens after your birth and before your death, but it never becomes present. McTaggart claimed that the A series is essential to time but also incoherent, because each event must be past, present, and future, which seems contradictory. Therefore, he concluded, time is unreal. Most philosophers today do not accept McTaggart's conclusion, but his argument sparked a deep re-examination of how we conceptualize time. Some say the A series is fundamental and that time really does flow. Others say the B series is more accurate and that the flow of time is a psychological illusion. In this debate, one idea keeps returning. Is time something in the world or in us? Immanuel Kant argued that time, like space, is not a thing in itself but a form of intuition. It is a way our minds structure experience. In his view, we do not perceive time, we perceive in time. Time is not an object we discover, but a condition that makes experience possible. And yet, in physics, time is a measurable dimension. It is part of the fabric of the universe. We can measure it with extraordinary precision. Atomic clocks are accurate to a billionth of a second. And in Einstein's theory of relativity, time is inseparably bound up with space. Events exist in space-time, and different observers can experience different durations depending on their velocity. In this view, time is as real as space, but it is not absolute. It bends, it stretches, it slows down near massive objects. This suggests that our everyday sense of time, the steady ticking of a universal clock, is not what time is at the fundamental level. So is time real, or is it a construct? Perhaps it is both. Perhaps time is real, but not in the way we think. The second question we must ask is about the nature of temporal passage. Does time pass, or does it only seem to pass? In everyday life, we feel time moving. We feel ourselves aging, events unfolding, the now constantly shifting. The future becomes present. The the present becomes past. This experience of passage feels undeniable. But is it metaphysically real? Some philosophers defend the idea of a moving present. This is the view that the present moment is metaphysically privileged, that it is more real than the past or the future. This view is often called presentism. Others defend the moving spotlight theory, which says that all moments in time exist, but one moment is illuminated as the present and the spotlight moves along the timeline. A third view, eternalism, denies that time passes at all. According to eternalism, all moments in time exist equally, like different places on a map. The past, the present, and the future are all real. There is no objective now that moves. This view finds support in Einstein's theory of relativity, which suggests that different observers can disagree about what is happening now. There is no universal present. Hermann Minkowski, Einstein's teacher, once said, "Henceforth space by itself and time by itself are doomed to fade away into mere shadows, and only a kind of union of the two will preserve an independent reality." If this is true, then the flow of time is not built into the universe, it is built into us. Henry Bergson, a French philosopher and Nobel laureate, disagreed. He argued that scientific time is not real time. Real time, he said, is durée, lived duration. It is qualitative, not quantitative. It is the flow of consciousness, not the ticking of a clock. Bergson believed that philosophers and scientists had mistaken the map for the territory. Physics, he said, gives us a spatialized version of time, sliced into equal units, but that is not how we experience it. In consciousness, time stretches, compresses, pulses. A minute of fear is longer than an hour of joy. Perhaps both are true. Perhaps physical time and lived time are two aspects of a deeper reality. The philosopher Edmund Husserl explored this in his phenomenology of internal time consciousness. He argued that our awareness of time is structured through retention, impression, and protension. Retention is the immediate past that is still held in awareness. Impression is the present moment. Protension is the anticipation of what is about to come. This triadic structure gives us the sense of flow. But again, is this structure in the world or in us? Does time really flow, or does our consciousness move along a fixed timeline like a needle moving along a record? The third great question in the philosophy of time brings us into a deeper metaphysical debate. What exists, the past, the present, or the future? Presentists say only the present is real. The past is gone. The future is not yet. The present is the only ontologically real moment. Eternalists say that all points in time are equally real. The past and the future are as real as the present. Growing block theorists take a middle ground. They say the past and present exist, but the future does not yet. As time passes, the block of reality grows. These views have profound implications. If eternalism is true, then the people of the past are not gone. They are just elsewhere in time. Your first birthday, the fall of Rome, and your great-grandchildren's lives are all real, just not happening now. This can be a comforting thought. It means no moment is ever truly lost. But it also challenges our sense of agency. If the future already exists, are our choices real? Are we just playing out a script? Presentism preserves our sense of freedom. If only the present is real, then the future is open. We are not yet determined. But it also raises problems. If the past does not exist, how can it cause effects in the present? How can we remember it? How can we refer to it meaningfully? These views also intersect with physics. Special relativity makes presentism difficult to sustain. There is no absolute simultaneity. Different observers can disagree about what is happening now. This suggests that the division of time into past, present, and future is not objective. It is perspectival. As Einstein said, the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. Whether we find that comforting or disturbing depends on our temperament, but it opens a door to deeper questions about how we live in time. What would it mean to see time not as a river carrying us forward, but as a landscape we move through, with all moments equally real? Let us now turn to one of the most pressing and puzzling features of time, its direction. We speak of the arrow of time, the sense in which events move from the past toward the future, never in reverse. Eggs break but never unbreak. We remember the past but not the future. We grow older, not younger. But why? What gives time its direction? In the world of fundamental physics, the laws that describe motion, force, gravity, and even quantum behavior are time-symmetric. That means they work equally well forward or backward in time. If you were to watch a movie of two particles colliding and then run the film in reverse, the laws would not object. They would hold true in both directions. This presents a deep puzzle. If the laws of physics are symmetric, why is our experience of time so asymmetric? The most widely accepted explanation comes from thermodynamics, specifically the second law of thermodynamics. This law states that in a closed system, entropy tends to increase over time. Entropy is a measure of disorder or randomness. Imagine a glass of ice water in a warm room. Over time, the ice melts and the water reaches room temperature. The system moves from a more ordered state, ice plus water, to a more disordered one, uniform temperature. This direction, from low entropy to high entropy, seems to define the arrow of time. Ludwig Boltzmann, a 19th century physicist, proposed that the direction of time is a statistical phenomenon. Systems naturally evolve from less probable to more probable states. A broken egg is more probable than an unbroken one. A diffused gas is more probable than a concentrated one. This statistical arrow is what gives rise to our temporal intuitions. But even this raises questions. Why was the universe in a low entropy state to begin with? That remains one of the deepest unsolved mysteries in cosmology. Philosophers have weighed in as well. Hugh Price has argued that our belief in temporal asymmetry is largely a projection of our cognitive perspective. We are creatures embedded in the thermodynamic arrow. Our brains, our memories, our choices all function within that framework. But that does not necessarily mean the asymmetry is metaphysically fundamental. Some thinkers propose that the arrow of time is not an inherent property of the universe, but an emergent one, a result of boundary conditions like the Big Bang, or of our own limited perspective as conscious agents. Others look to the psychology of time. Why do we remember the past but not the future? Why do we feel regret about yesterday and hope for tomorrow? This brings us to the next major problem, the asymmetry between past and future. It is not just that events seem to move forward, it is that the past feels fixed and the future feels open. We remember the past but not the future. We can influence what comes next, but not what came before. Why? One answer is causal asymmetry. Causes precede effects. Lighting a match causes a flame. The flame does not reach backward in time to cause the match to light. But again, in many interpretations of physics, this asymmetry is not fundamental. It is something we build into our understanding of the world. David Lewis, the philosopher of counterfactuals, asked us to consider how we reason about possibilities. If the past were different, would the present be different? Usually not. But if the present were different, we think the future would be. This difference in reasoning reflects our sense that the past is closed while the future is still being written. But what grounds this belief? Michael Dummett explored the idea that the asymmetry of time is epistemic. It is about what we can know. The past leaves traces. It creates records, fossils, memories, ruins. The future has not yet left its mark. This asymmetry in knowledge might explain why we feel time flowing from past to future and not the other way around. There is also the emotional component. We feel nostalgia for the past, anxiety or anticipation for the future. The past is familiar. The future is unknown. This shapes our values, our goals, our fears. And yet, some philosophers have speculated about a mirror image world where beings remember the future and anticipate the past. Their thermodynamic arrow would run in the opposite direction. What would life feel like for them? Would they mourn what is yet to come? Would they plan for what has already happened? These thought experiments stretch our imagination, but they help us see how deeply embedded our temporal assumptions really are. The question of asymmetry also intersects with debates about free will. If the future is fixed, then in what sense are we free? If it is open, then how do we make true statements about it? This brings us to our next mystery, time travel. Can we travel through time? Is it metaphysically possible? The idea of time travel has fascinated humanity for centuries. From H.G. Wells' The Time Machine to countless films and novels, the idea of moving backward or forward in time continues to spark the imagination. But is it more than fiction? Let us start with physics. Einstein's theory of general relativity allows for solutions that resemble time machines. One example is the closed time-like curve. In such a curve, space and time are curved back on themselves in such a way that an object could theoretically return to its own past. Wormholes, hypothetical tunnels through space-time, could, in theory, connect different points in time as well as space. Physicist Kip Thorne and others have explored the conditions under which such time travel might be physically possible, but it would require exotic matter with negative energy density. So far, no such matter has been discovered. Still, the laws of physics do not rule it out entirely. But even if time travel is physically possible, is it metaphysically coherent? One challenge is the grandfather paradox. Suppose you travel back in time and prevent your grandfather from meeting your grandmother. Then your parent is never born, and neither are you. But if you were never born, you could not have gone back in time to prevent their meeting. This paradox creates a logical loop. David Lewis offered a famous response. He argued that time travel is possible if we distinguish between external and personal time. You can go back in external time while still moving forward in your personal time. As for paradoxes, Lewis said they only arise if we assume that you can change the past. But on his view, you cannot. You can participate in it, but you cannot alter what has already happened. Whatever you did in the past was already part of history. So if you went back in time and failed to stop your grandfather, it was always true that you would fail. Time travel, in this view, does not allow for changing the past. It allows for fulfilling it. This leads to a broader philosophical question. Is the past fixed? Can anything change it? Or is changing the past simply a contradiction in terms? Some thinkers like Nicholas Smith and Tim Maudlin have argued that backward causation is not logically incoherent, but it does require us to rethink many of our assumptions about causality, identity, and agency. Then there are the metaphysical implications. If time travel is possible, does it require eternalism? That is, does it only make sense if all points in time exist equally and are accessible, like locations on a map? If presentism is true, and only the present exists, then where would you go when you travel in time? There would be nowhere to go. In this sense, time travel seems to presuppose a certain ontology of time. There is also the question of personal identity. If you meet your past self, are you meeting a different person, or are you encountering another stage of yourself? What happens if your actions in the past create a divergent timeline or alternate reality? These questions move us into speculative but deeply revealing territory. They challenge our understanding of continuity, responsibility, and even what it means to be a person across time. Some philosophers and physicists propose that time travel would require branching timelines or parallel universes. In this multiverse view, changing the past does not affect your original timeline but creates a new one. This avoids paradoxes but at the cost of multiplying realities. Others remain skeptical. They argue that time travel is a conceptual mess. Paul Horwich, for example, contends that the idea of a time traveler influencing the past involves contradictions that cannot be resolved. He believes that all seemingly coherent stories about time travel depend on logical inconsistencies. Yet others embrace the paradoxes. They see them not as fatal flaws, but as indications of how strange and subtle time truly is. After all, what better topic than time to stretch our intuitions to their breaking point? And so we return to the present. We have explored the direction of time, the asymmetry between past and future, and the metaphysical possibility of time travel. These questions have no easy answers, but they offer something far more valuable than certainty. They offer insight. They invite us to question what we take for granted, to slow down, to reflect, to marvel at the strange, flowing, elusive thing we call time. What we have seen so far is that time is not just a background for events. It is a rich, complex, multi-layered phenomenon. It is physical, psychological, metaphysical, and deeply personal. Time is the condition of our lives, the medium through which we move, the thread of our stories, the silence between the notes. In the next part of our journey, we will explore whether the future is open or determined, whether time depends on consciousness, and whether time is fundamental or an illusion. We will ask why time matters, philosophically, existentially, and emotionally. And we will continue, as always, not to solve these mysteries, but to live with them. Let us continue our journey into the mystery of time by asking one of the most emotionally and philosophically urgent questions. Is the future open or determined? When you think about tomorrow, next week, or the next chapter of your life, does it already exist, waiting for you to arrive there? Or is it being created in real time by your actions, thoughts, and decisions? Philosophers have long debated whether the future is fixed or open, and the implications of this question reach into everything from physics and metaphysics to ethics and the meaning of human freedom. Determinism is the view that every event is the necessary result of prior causes, governed by the laws of nature. If determinism is true, then in principle, if someone had complete knowledge of the initial state of the universe and its laws, they could predict everything that would ever happen, including your thoughts, your choices, and even this very moment. This was the vision of Pierre-Simon Laplace, an 18th century mathematician, who imagined a superintelligence, now called Laplace's demon, that could, given the position and velocity of every particle in the universe, compute the entire future. But this deterministic picture has been challenged, not just by philosophers, but by modern physics. Quantum mechanics, for example, introduces a degree of fundamental indeterminacy into our understanding of the physical world. According to many interpretations, certain events at the quantum level happen probabilistically. There is no hidden variable that determines when a radioactive atom will decay or when a photon will pass through one slit or another. Does this indeterminism filter upward into our everyday world, making the future genuinely open? Or is it merely a technical wrinkle in a still largely deterministic system? Philosophers of time ask the question in broader terms. Even if the universe is deterministic, is the future metaphysically real? Do future events exist already, or are they yet to be? If eternalism is true, if all points in time exist equally, then the future is just as real as the past and the present. Your death, your final words, your great-grandchild's first steps, these all exist somewhere along the timeline. They are not happening now, but they are fixed in the structure of space-time. This view raises serious questions for our everyday sense of agency. How can I meaningfully choose if my future choices already exist? On the other hand, if presentism or the growing block theory is true, the future is not yet real. It is open, full of possibilities. The present is all that exists, and the future unfolds from it. This matches our lived experience of making decisions, of facing uncertainty, of being surprised. But it also raises difficult logical problems. For instance, if a statement about the future, say there will be a sea battle tomorrow, is either true or false right now, then it seems the future must be fixed. If it is true now that there will be a sea battle tomorrow, then it must happen. If it is false, then it must not. This is the classic problem of future contingents, first discussed by Aristotle. To avoid fatalism, some philosophers argue that such future statements are neither true nor false until the events occur. Others revise the logic itself, introducing three-valued or branching time logics to handle open futures. In ethics and political philosophy, this issue is even more urgent. If the future is fixed, can we be held morally responsible for what we do? Can we be praised or blamed if we could not have done otherwise? Many thinkers believe that moral responsibility depends on the openness of the future, or at least on the sense that we are the authors of our actions. Whether or not the future exists, we live as though it doesn't. We plan, we hope, we change our minds. The feeling of possibility, of agency, of creating something new is at the heart of human life. Perhaps that is enough. Perhaps the openness of the future is not a metaphysical fact, but a practical attitude, a necessary illusion for meaning, action, and care. And now we come to a question that draws together many threads of what we have discussed. What is the relationship between time and consciousness? We do not simply observe time. We live in it. We feel it. Our awareness of time is not abstract. It is intimate, emotional, and deeply personal. But why? Why do we experience time as flowing? Why does consciousness seem to move from one moment to the next? Could time exist without consciousness? Could consciousness exist without time? The philosopher Edmund Husserl believed that time consciousness is the foundation of all experience. We do not experience isolated moments, like still photographs. We experience melodies, gestures, thoughts that unfold in time. Even the perception of a single note depends on our awareness of what just happened and what is coming next. Husserl described this structure as a unity of retention, impression, and protension. Retention holds the just past in consciousness. Impression is the vivid now. Protension is the anticipation of what is about to happen. Together, they form what we might call the moving window of consciousness, the present that is always infused with past and future. Other philosophers have built on and challenged this view. William James, in his Psychology of the Specious Present, argued that the present moment, as experienced, is not a mathematical point but a short duration. It is thick with memory and expectation. We do not experience the now as a dot, but as a dynamic span. In contrast, Daniel Dennett has argued that our experience of temporal flow is constructed by the brain after the fact, through what he calls the multiple drafts model of consciousness. According to this view, there is no single unified stream of experience, only a patchwork of narratives that the brain stitches together. But the deeper mystery remains. Why does consciousness feel like movement through time? Why do we feel located at a particular point in the timeline, with the past behind us and the future ahead? Physicist Sean Carroll suggests that this may be a function of entropy and memory. We are beings who remember the past and anticipate the future because we are thermodynamically embedded in a universe with an entropy gradient. That may be true, but it does not explain why it feels the way it does. The philosopher Galen Strawson has argued that consciousness is fundamentally temporal, that there is no experience without the passage of time. Others, like Julian Barber, argue the opposite, that time is not real, and that consciousness is simply a sequence of still moments, each complete in itself, like frames in a film. There are also mystical and contemplative traditions that suggest consciousness can transcend time. In deep meditation, altered states, or near-death experiences, people often report a sense of timeless awareness. Past and future dissolve into an eternal present. Eckhart Tolle speaks of the power of now as a gateway to spiritual awakening. The philosopher Plotinus described the soul as rising above time into the realm of eternity. And in the Christian tradition, God is said to exist outside of time altogether, seeing all things at once in a timeless vision. These accounts raise further questions. Is consciousness always temporal, or can it access something beyond time? Is our ordinary experience of time a veil, a limitation, or a necessary framework? Could there be minds that do not experience time? Could artificial intelligence have time consciousness, or would it merely simulate it? These questions lie at the edge of what we can know, but they challenge us to reflect more deeply on our own experience. Time is not just something that happens. It is something we are immersed in. It is the rhythm of our lives, the pulse of awareness itself. We now arrive at another profound question. Is time fundamental or emergent? That is time one of the basic building blocks of reality, or does it arise from something deeper? In classical Newtonian physics, time is absolute. It flows evenly, without regard to anything external. It provides a stage on which the events of the universe unfold. But in Einstein's relativity, time is not absolute. It is part of space-time, a flexible fabric that bends with mass and energy. Time can dilate, it can slow down near a black hole. This already suggests that time is not fundamental in the old sense. But some physicists and philosophers go even further. In quantum gravity, the search for a theory that unifies general relativity and quantum mechanics, time often disappears entirely from the equations. In certain formulations, like loop quantum gravity, time is not present in the fundamental structure of the universe. The universe is described not by how it evolves in time, but by timeless relationships between quantum events. This has led thinkers like Julian Barber to propose that time is not real in the way we think. Barber argues that reality consists of a vast collection of possible configurations of the universe, which he calls nows. Each now is a complete, timeless snapshot. Our experience of time is the result of how these nows are arranged and connected by memory and causality. Time, in this view, is an emergent illusion. It is not part of the ultimate fabric of reality. Carlo Rovelli, another prominent physicist and philosopher, also suggests that time is not fundamental. In his book, The Order of Time, Rovelli explains that at the deepest levels of physics, the universe is not ordered by a single, universal time. Instead, different parts of the universe experience time differently, depending on their position, motion, and gravitational environment. Time, he says, is like a local variable, not a global one. The idea of a single flowing time is a useful approximation at human scales, but it breaks down at the quantum level. If time is not fundamental, what is? Some suggest that information, change, or causal relations are more basic. Time then emerges as a way of organizing sequences of events. Others argue that time is real, but only as a structural feature of reality, a way of describing relationships between things, not a substance in itself. Philosophers like Tim Maudlin push back against the idea that time is an illusion. He argues that temporal structure is essential to causation, explanation, and science. Without time, we cannot make sense of anything. If time is not real, then nothing happens and nothing changes. And that, Maudlin says, is not a coherent picture of reality. There is also a middle path. Perhaps time is not fundamental in the sense of being absolute, but it is not an illusion either. It is emergent, but real. Just as temperature is not a property of a single molecule, but a collective property of many molecules, time might be a collective feature of complex systems. It emerges at a certain level of description and becomes indispensable for our understanding of the world. What is at stake in this debate is not just a scientific theory, but a vision of reality. If time is fundamental, then becoming, change, and process are at the heart of the cosmos. If time is emergent, then reality is static at its core, and our experience of movement is a surface phenomenon. Either way, our understanding of time shapes how we see ourselves. Are we temporary visitors in a changing universe, or are we part of a timeless reality, caught in a fleeting illusion of motion? As we reflect on these questions, let us remember what Augustine said: "Time is in you. Do not ask what time is in the world. Ask what it is in your soul." Perhaps time is not one thing, perhaps it is many things: physical, mental, relational, existential. Perhaps it is a mystery not to be solved, but to be inhabited with care. Shall I continue with the final 2,000 words, which will explore how time relates to human meaning, mortality, purpose, and how the philosophy of time might shape how we live? We come now to the final and perhaps most personal question in the philosophy of time. Why does time matter? Why is it not just a metaphysical curiosity, a theoretical puzzle, but something that reaches into the very core of how we live and who we are? Time matters because we are temporal creatures. We live in time, move through time, and are shaped by time. Our memories, our hopes, our plans, our regrets, our growth, all of it unfolds temporally. We do not exist outside of time. We are woven into it, moment by moment, and we feel its presence not only in clocks and calendars, but in our bodies, our relationships, our aging, our longing, our loss. The philosopher Martin Heidegger placed time at the center of his existential analysis. In Being and Time, he argued that to be human is to be a being toward death. That is, our temporality is not abstract, it is lived, it is finite, it is defined by the horizon of our mortality. Heidegger called this awareness of our limited time authenticity. When we realize that our time is not infinite, we are called to take ownership of our lives, to live deliberately, to stop deferring our existence. To be human, Heidegger wrote, is to be a question for oneself, and that question is always asked within time. We are never just static objects. We are always underway, in process, not yet finished. Our past is sedimented in us. Our present is filled with urgency. Our future is not guaranteed. And in this fragile temporality, we must decide how to live. Many traditions and thinkers have echoed this idea. The Stoics taught that time is precious because it is the one thing we can never regain. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." He advised his students to live each day as if it were a complete life, to treat time not as something to spend, but as something sacred. This attitude is mirrored in Buddhist thought as well. The impermanence of all things, anicca, is a central insight. Everything arises, changes, and passes away. Nothing lasts, not our youth, our possessions, our relationships, our thoughts. To understand this deeply is not to become nihilistic, but to become wise. Impermanence is not a flaw in reality. It is its essence. And when we accept this, we begin to let go, not of care, but of clinging. We stop resisting the flow of time and begin to live more fully within it. This awareness of time also underlies our sense of identity. Who are you? You are not a fixed point. You are a continuity, a story, a narrative arc that stretches from your childhood through your present and into your imagined future. The self is not a thing, but a process, a becoming. Paul Ricoeur called this narrative identity, the idea that we understand ourselves through the stories we tell about our past, the values we hold in the present, and the goals we set for the future. Without time, there would be no story, no development, no growth, no character. To live meaningfully, then, is to live in time well, to honor our past, to be present in the now, and to reach forward into a future we may not see. This sense of temporal responsibility extends beyond the self. It shapes our relationships. Love exists in time. It requires memory, attention, patience, and hope. We build trust over time. We wound each other over time. We forgive over time. The temporal fabric of human life is what makes intimacy possible. Morality, too, is temporal. We make promises. We keep commitments. We hold ourselves accountable, not only for what we did, but for what we will do. Ethics is not just about rules. It is about time, about how we act across days, years, lifetimes, about how we carry the weight of the past and the responsibility for the future. In a broader sense, time gives rise to legacy. We are not only responsible for ourselves, we are stewards of a world we will leave behind. We plant trees under whose shade we may never sit. We build institutions and tell stories and pass down knowledge because we care about what comes next. Even if we do not know the names of those who will live 100 years from now, we know they will live in the time shaped by our actions today. This intergenerational temporality is the root of cultural memory, moral progress, and social responsibility. It connects us with ancestors and descendants, with history and hope. It is what makes us more than isolated moments. It is what gives human civilization its arc. And yet all of this is shadowed by mortality. Time is not only the medium of meaning, it is the measure of our finitude. We are born, we live, we die. Every breath we take is a step closer to our end. And this fact gives time its urgency and poignancy. We feel the pressure of time because we know it will run out. This is not morbid, it is awakening. It invites us to live now, not later, to act with intention, to cherish what is here. Thinkers like Albert Camus saw this clearly. In a world without guaranteed meaning, the passage of time becomes a call to create, to rebel against the absurd by making beauty, by choosing dignity, by embracing the briefness of life as a canvas for authenticity. Others, like T.S. Eliot, explored the paradox of time in spiritual language. In 4 quartets he wrote, "Time present and time past are both perhaps present in time future, and time future contained in time past. If all time is eternally present, all time is unredeemable." He speaks of moments of stillness, of transcendence, where the boundaries of time blur and something eternal shines through the fleeting. In such moments of love, of grief, of insight, we feel the thickness of now. We feel that time is more than movement, it is mystery. This brings us to a final reflection. We began by asking what time is. We end by asking how to live with it. Perhaps we do not need to solve the metaphysics of time in order to live wisely within it. Perhaps it is enough to become more aware of how time feels, how it moves through us, how we move through it, how we waste it, how we cherish it, how we mark it in birthdays and calendars and sunrises and scars. There is a kind of sacredness to time when we attend to it. Each moment is unrepeatable. Each hour contains infinite possibilities. Each day is a gift, not in the cliched sense, but in the deepest sense. We do not deserve time. We receive it. We borrow it, and we give it back moment by moment as we act, speak, love, and let go. So what do we do with this borrowed time? We remember, we forgive, we begin again. We turn toward what matters. We make meaning not despite time, but because of it. In the end, time may be an illusion, or it may be the fabric of all that is. But either way, it is ours to live. And that, perhaps, is the greatest philosophical insight of all. Not what time is, but how we respond to it. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the great questions of the philosophy of time. From the reality of time itself, to the mystery of its flow, to the paradoxes of causation and memory and death, we have explored the questions that define our existence. These are not questions to answer once and for all. They are questions to live with, to return to grow inside. If this journey brought you reflection, calm, or wonder, I invite you to carry these questions with you into your own experience of time, into your mornings and evenings, into your conversations and silences, into the choices you make with the hours and days that are yours. And if you'd like to return for more philosophical journeys like this, consider subscribing or sharing this space with someone who also feels the pull of these questions. Until next time, may your moments be full, your presence deep, and your time well lived. Good night, and thank you for listening.